First question's from Alana Rizzo. Go ahead.
Dodger president of baseball operations and World Series champion. That's
the sound of it.
Yes, it's good. Congratulations, Andrew.
Thank you so much.
Lost faith in this team, but now that you've had all of 17 minutes to let this sink in, what goes through your head?
It's incredible. Just what we've had to go through this year, really as a country, as a world, just all that everyone has had to endure, and thinking back to April and May and fearing that Dodger fans were not going to get a chance to see this 2020 team even go on the field and compete. And for us to be standing here tonight, holding up the World Series trophy means everything.
And you said that the trophy is going back to Los Angeles, where it belongs. This has been a long road, not without adversity, certainly. At what point do you think you'll realize that you guys are World Series champions?
It's a really good question. Obviously we've gotten close in years past, and I just couldn't be more proud of everyone that we work with, everyone who's in this together. It would have been easy to just kind of throw our hands up, and each adversity that we faced, I think, brought us closer together. And we, kind of huddled up and kept trying to figure out ways to get better and to improve. And for it to culminate in this is so incredibly special, and it hasn't fully really set in. And I think, never done this before, so I'm not sure when, but I really like the feeling.
How grateful were you that Kevin Cash took Snell out of the game?
Those guys obviously, have managed their starters that way throughout the year, and it was good enough to get them to Game 6 of the World Series. In that moment, watching the game, we were certainly happy that he did, but obviously they have their reasons for what they do, and they're really good at what they do. Again, as evidenced by them being in Game 6 of the World Series. But, from our standpoint, I think our hitters got a real jolt from that. But, who knows how the game plays out if he stays in the game, and, it's something we'll never know.
At what point were you counting down the outs?
From the minute that Mookie scored.
Okay.
The second Mookie scored.
What a game changer. What was going through your mind?
It's funny. I talk about this a lot. There are games during the regular season that I have really good recall of, and I can kind of walk you through inning by inning and who pitched and what happened. And playoff games are a blur to me. It's kind of an out of body, just the intensity. But obviously Barnesy getting that hit, and then Mookie coming up and getting the double down the line. And so then I'm trying to figure out, all right, we got, 2, 3, 4 coming up. And for it to happen the way it did, just speaks to baseball and how you can benefit from it at times. And at times like Game 4, you can be on the wrong side of it. And so when things work out in your favor, it's what we love about it. And when it goes against you, it's what you hate about it.
You have received your fair amount of criticism and questions regarding how you guys have handled Julio Urias and his development. Can you look at this and say, this is why we did what we did?
No, I mean, obviously he was incredible this postseason. Just the compete, the way he went about it was as good as it gets. And, we talked about, putting him in that role in Game 7, and just to a man, it was easy to bet on. And then for him to go out and back it up the way he did, just speaks volumes about him. And so he was a huge part of getting us to this point, and then obviously a huge part of Game 7 in the CS and a huge part of Game 6 tonight.
Next question's from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations, Andrew. Sorry, I have to ask you about Justin Turner. Can you please take us through when you learned, what you learned, and very specifically why he was on the field for photos and part of the celebration?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot of this, and I get the questions, will be for another day. I found out about it in the 7th inning, and, it was extremely surreal. And, obviously my mind was somewhere else, and then had to quickly adjust to what was happening. Obviously incredibly unfortunate, but, kind of speaks to, what all of us are going through in 2020. And then the post game, I think having a mask on and staying socially distanced, he wanted to come out and take a picture with the trophy, which, can't state strongly enough how big of a role he's played in the success of this organization. But, I think for him, just being a free agent, not knowing exactly how the future is going to play out, I don't think there was anyone that was going to stop him from going out. I think, from at least my perspective, and, not watching it super closely with everything going on, but, I think he was mindful of, other people, especially other people that he hadn't already been in contact with. This is something that we're going to wrap our arms around tonight and in the morning, and figure out, where we're going from here. It was obviously a really unfortunate, kind of end point of this incredible series, and definitely, affected some of the joy from winning, just because of how much JT has meant to us, and, him not being able to be on the field for that final out, with everything he's done for this organization. But, it's something that is no one's fault. It's just how things played out. And, we'll figure out exactly how to proceed going forward.
Will the team be going home, or do you have to stay here in quarantine again now?
Not sure yet. We're going back tonight, and we're going to all take tests and figure out what the results are from that, and then go from there.
You mean going back to the hotel?
Correct.
Thanks.
Next question is from JP Hornstra. Go ahead.
Andrew, congratulations. Can you put into perspective just how much Mookie Betts meant to this? I mean, so much was talked about his acquisition, but then to see it come to fruition in the way that it did in the World Series, are you guys here celebrating this without him?
It's hard to imagine we are. I gave the answer earlier that coming in when we acquired him, my expectations were sky high, and somehow he managed to find some headroom above that and exceed it. I can't say enough about the baseball player, the way he makes everyone around him better. And it's hard to imagine us sitting here right now without him.
Next question is from Stephanie Epstein. Go ahead.
Andrew, you were actually shown standing next to Justin with neither of you wearing a mask.
I was definitely wearing a mask.
Okay. Why were you guys not more, forceful with him about remaining isolated, given the risk to all the people on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I think the people who were on the field were people that he had been around, and with masks and staying distance. And again, I haven't seen the footage per se, but, I think from his standpoint, him having a chance to take a picture with the trophy was incredibly important and meaningful to him. And, obviously from our standpoint, the contact tracing and figure out, who's been around him, and the test results are all going to be incredibly important from this point moving forward. It's hard for me to say specifically about the on-field, because I didn't see everything that happened or didn't. And so obviously we'll, figure out more as we go.
Next question is from Derek Gould. Go ahead.
Andrew, I mean, there were photos obviously of Justin with the trophy, Dave Roberts beside him, you not too far away. Can you address at least the optics of this? I mean, baseball has a chance to be an example.
Can you talk a little bit louder, Derek?
Derek, I can't hear you.
I can. Can you hear me now? Is this better?
Maryland?
Go ahead. Yep.
Better? Is this better?
Yes, much
Yeah.
better.
There were photos of Justin with the trophy, you sitting not too far away, and Dave Roberts without a mask. Can you at least speak to the optics of that when baseball has a chance to set an example? And also when teams who did have positive tests had people immediately go into quarantine, immediately leave the team, and sometimes not emerge for days?
Yeah, I haven't seen the pictures. I totally understand the question. If there are people around him without masks, that's not good optics at all. I haven't seen them, so it's hard for me to speak to it specifically. But I think from our standpoint, I think the people who were around him were people that would be in the contact tracing web anyway, with just how closely a lot of us have been around each other. And so now I think the subsequent tests we're going to take are really important to figure out what we doing to make sure that any of us that are potentially positive do not spread it to other people.
Next question from Pedro Mora. Go ahead.
Yeah, Andrew. So what you're saying is essentially that it was up to Justin to go on the field and he chose to, and no one said no. Just to understand clearly.
It wasn't up to Justin. I think Justin wanted to come out and take a picture with the trophy and did. And again, I think with or without that, a lot of the people who he interacted with would be in the contact tracing web. And before we are to interact with other people, I think it's important for us all to clear the requisite testing hurdles to make sure that we're in a good spot before we do that.
Next question's from Kyle Glazer. Go ahead.
Andrew, just organizationally, you guys had developed the most homegrown players of any team in the playoffs this year. Just seeing all this talent kind of ascend and culminate in this moment, just what does it mean for the organization kind of top to bottom?
Yeah, it's what hit me right in the final out, just the number of fingerprints all over the success of this team. You go across every department in our baseball operations group, and they all have a hand in this roster. And, again, we've been through a lot of adversity in years past, and, for us to continue to try to figure out ways to improve and get better with what we were doing, I think speaks to the group that we have. And, for our young guys to get this experience this year really bodes well for us in the future. For our veteran guys who have been through a lot of this, for them to reach this ultimate pinnacle, couldn't be more meaningful with what they've gone through. And so I think, just as a group, we couldn't be more proud and couldn't be happier about it. And, you kind of saw a lot of that joy, just a number of people, literally crying on the field. I think speaks to a lot of, what we've been through in the past and a lot of, what, we've gone through this year.
Time for one more. Go ahead, Bradford Davis.
Hi, Justin. The protocol says that after the club receives notice of a positive test. I apologize. After the club receives notice of a positive test result for a player, staff member, the club notifies the infected individual, requires him to isolate, meaning no contact with anyone other than medical professionals. So why did you choose not to follow that portion of the protocol?
We did. When he came out of the game, he went and was quarantined in a doctor's office off to the side. Again, I think a lot of those instances are people who are around different and new people. The fact that we were all in a bubble together, I think means that from a contact tracing standpoint, we're all in that web. And so now it's important that, we all test negative however many times or whatever the protocols are to make sure that we don't go out and potentially spread it to other people. We've all been in a bubble. And so I think, the amount of contact and interaction between us that have been in that bubble is pretty high. And so now it's important to make sure that, the people who are infected are subsequently quarantined. And, I think by and large, it's to make sure that we don't spread it outside of this bubble, because from a contact tracing standpoint, we're all kind of in that web.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, everybody.